For a long time, I believed that if I ever let up the intensity of my parenting, even a little bit, I was gambling with my son's future. So I didn't. I stayed vigilant. I embraced the intensity. I tried to stay ahead of everything I could think of. It felt responsible and necessary. And maybe you've been there or are living there right now. And I want to share this with you, not because you should care about my story particularly, but because now that my son is 27, I have the benefit of hindsight. And if I can help you in some way by sharing my story, I want to do that. What I couldn't see then was that I was living inside a false bargain. I believed that if I absorbed enough of the fear about his future then, that I could protect him later. I wasn't consciously thinking that sentence, but I was structuring my whole life around it. If you're living inside that kind of intensity because you believe that's what responsible love requires, I see you. I lived there for years. And here's what I eventually figured out, after a lot of unnecessary angst, that easing up didn't mean I was giving less. It didn't mean I cared less. In some ways, when I was able to do that, it meant we got something back I hadn't even realized I'd been trading away. I love my son completely. And for a long time, though, I didn't trust that love without pressure was enough. For most of my life, success came from thinking harder, from working harder, from preparing more, from anticipating problems, from staying in control of variables. That worked for me professionally. I earned respect, I solved hard things. So when my son needed support, that was the posture I brought into parenting. Research, planning, tracking progress, staying 3 steps ahead. I treated his needs with the seriousness they deserved. But underneath all of that was this invisible calculation. If someone had to carry the weight of the future, it would be me. If someone had to hold the fear, it would be me. I didn't experience that as anxiety. I experienced that as love doing its job. There were nights when I couldn't keep the intensity up. Not because I wanted to let go, but because I ran out of steam. When those nights happened, sometimes I let him stay in the bathtub for over an hour. The water would cool, he'd run some more and warm it up again. He was calm and happy, and I just sat there for once with no agenda. And during those times, I felt like I was cheating. Like the responsible version of me would have ended it sooner, kept the evening structured, kept the momentum going. But now that I look back on those times, I realized those were moments when he wasn't braced, I wasn't scanning. We were just living in the moment, and I didn't realize how precious that was. There's another day I think about a lot too. My son was 7, I was homeschooling him, and his needs were really intense then. There wasn't a lot of downtime. Back then, he needed supervision 24/7, because without it, there was no telling what kind of danger or mischief he could have gotten himself into. That day, there were 2 people who were supposed to come in and have shifts working with him, and both called in sick. So there we were. It was going to be me in the room with him all day. And I thought to myself, we still need to make really good use of this time. One of my goals at the time was teaching him how to swallow pills. He was taking lots of medications and supplements, and mixing them into food was problematic. So I prepared, I had anatomy drawings, I had explanations, I had empty capsules for practice. And I assumed this process would take hours or maybe even days. So we sat down, we were in front of the mirror, and I was showing him how you put the pill in and it goes down your throat. I was showing him with the anatomy drawings. Within 30 minutes, he could swallow pills calmly, easily, cooperatively. And instead of celebrating, my first thought was, oh no, what are we going to do with the rest of the day? My mind immediately started building a plan. How do I maximize this time? How do I make it count? And at some point, I don't remember deciding this, but I just stopped and I thought to myself, you know what? We met our goal for the whole day, and it's only like 9:30 a.m. We had done the thing. So we deserve to just play all day. So we played. No objective, no measurable outcomes, and it was one of the easiest, most fun days we ever had. We were connected, it was light, we were silly. There were no miracles. Well, learning how to take pills in 30 minutes was a miracle, but it was just uncomplicated. But the next day, I went right back to my default, back to managing and structuring and carrying the future. That day, unfortunately, didn't transform me. I wish it had, but it did stay with me. It became evidence that another way of being was possible. But it took me years to see that. When I lived inside of that intensity, I thought I was protecting him. But what I was really doing was I was trying to protect us both with my brain. In those moments, my heart was taking a back seat. Over time, I did start to notice that sometimes when I softened, he softened too. He didn't push against me as much. He didn't brace as often. Our time sometimes felt more mutual. And at the time, when connection felt weak, I assumed it was because he was autistic. But looking back, I can see that the distance was coming from the posture that I was holding. I was trying to secure his future instead of being fully present in the moment. And I know he felt that. This isn't a story about abandoning structure. Structure mattered. Support mattered. Thinking mattered. But the constant intensity underneath that was optional, and I didn't know that. I thought that if I let up the intensity even slightly, it would cost him something. And I still feel that pull toward intensity sometimes. It still feels responsible. It still feels like love doing its job. But now I can see the bargain when it starts forming. And I have evidence from bath nights and unexpected easy days that I don't have to do it that way. But I've learned to notice when I'm managing the future instead of meeting the moment. I know that easing up isn't the same as withdrawing, that softening the urgency doesn't mean lowering what I want for him. If you're living inside that kind of pressure because you want to give your child every possible advantage, I hope you'll just ask yourself the question whether you need to carry it with that level of intensity. For me, what changed wasn't that I stopped caring about the future. It's that I stopped believing that I could secure it with intensity. And when that happened, it gave way to connection, the kind that doesn't require a plan. And I'm still learning what it means to trust that.